Types of Proportion with Teacher Ricky B. Hello children, this is Teacher Ricky B. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will be discussing the types of proportion. Handa na ba kayo? Halina't sabay-sabay tayong matuto. But before we begin, let me introduce to you the types of proportion. So there are three types of proportion, namely direct proportion, inverse or indirect proportion, at partitive proportion. So in this video tutorial or video lesson, i-discuss ko sa inyo o ipapakilala ko sa inyo ang bawat isa sa kanila. I'm going to discuss how to set up proportion according to each types at kung paano isolve ang problem that involves direct, indirect or inverse at partitive proportion. But still, before we begin, you may visit my YouTube channel, Teacher Ricky B, and then you can watch there the ratio and proportion for more understanding of the concept para masigit ninyong maunawaan ang discussion natin sa video nito. So let's start. First, direct proportion. When we say direct proportion, a change in one term produces a change on other in the same direction. An increase or decrease in one quantity produces the same rate of increase or decrease on the other quantity. So in short, if the first term increase, the second term increases. So yan makikita ninyo. Kapag tumaas yung isa, ang mangyayari, yung tataas din dapat yung isa. Kapag bumaba naman yung isa, bababa din yung isa. So makikita ninyo yung pattern. So this is direct proportion. For us to understand more about direct proportion, let's consider this example. So Lino and Roy sell newspapers on weekend to earn extra money. For every 3 newspapers that Lino sells, Roy sells 5. If Lino sold 15 newspapers, how many did Roy sell? So here, we are comparing the number of newspapers that Lino sells to the number of newspaper that Roy sells. Based from the given problem, in every 3 newspaper that Lino sells, Roy sells 5. So the ratio will be 3 to 5. The question is, if Lino sold 15 newspapers, how many newspaper Roy sell? So tumaas yung number ng nabenta ni Lino. So let's illustrate it this way. In every 3 newspaper that Lino sells, Roy sold 5 newspaper. So pag nagdagdag uli ng 3 nabenta si Lino, madadagdagan din ng 5 yung kay Roy. So dagdagan uli ng 3 yung kay Lino, nadagdagan din uli yung kay Roy. So nakikita ninyo yung pattern ng direct proportion. Sa bawat pagdagdag ng kay Lino, tataas din yung kay Roy. So pang 15 na newspaper na nabenta ni Lino, nadagdagan ng 5 yung kay Roy with a total number of how many newspaper. So this time, Roy sold 25 newspaper. So the pattern is, if Lino's newspaper increases, same din yung mangyayari kay Roy. So this time, these two quantities are directly proportional. So, paano ba i-set up ito sa proportion? Okay. To set up this in proportion, ang una nating gagawin, we can use the fraction form, column form, or fraction form or column form. So at first, Lino to Roy. So observe nyo yung sequence ng quantity. First term, second term. So ibig sabihin, first quantity is for Lino, then second quantity is for Roy. So, yan yung unang ratio. To form a proportion, sa second ratio, first quantity pa rin si Lino, then second quantity din si Roy. So, ganyan yung pag-set up. Lino to Roy as Lino to Roy, or we can say here, 3 newspaper for Roy, for Lino, and 5 newspaper for Roy as. So, nag-sell uli o nagbenta si Lino ng 15 newspaper. Ang hahanapin natin ng kasagutan ay yung kay Roy. So, siya yung magiging problem natin, hahanapan natin. So, ganyan pag-set up. Pwede na natin siyang i-set up gamit ang colon form. Lino to Roy as, or si Lino ay merong 3 at first, and then si Roy ay may 5, as Lino to Roy again. Sa next, natin ay naging 15 na yung newspaper ni Lino. Ngayon, hahanapan natin ang sagot, ilang newspaper yung kay Roy. So, nakita na natin yung sagot kanina using the illustration. This time, susolve naman natin ito gamit ang iba't ibang strategy. So, tandaan nyo na kung paano na-set up natin yung proportion sa direct proportion, ha? So, this time, paano naman i-solve? So, for the solution, let n is a variable, be the number of newspaper Roy sell as Tolino sells 15 newspaper. So, yung number of newspaper ni Roy, yun yung gagawin nating n. So, to solve this one, we can use first the strategy 1 or the cross product. So, the ratio ay, yung proportion na nagawa natin kanina ay Lino to Roy. So, Lino has 3 at first, then Roy sold 5 newspaper. As 2, naging 15 yung nabenta ni Lino, ano ang mangyayari kay Roy? So, we can use the cross product here. So, all we have to do is we have to multiply the extremes and then cross multiply the means. So, dyan, 3 times n is equal to 5 times 15. Then, 3n is equal to 5 times 15. The product is 75. Then, we will be dividing both equation by the number na partner ni n. Sino yung partner ni n? Si 3. So, si 3 ang gagamitin nating divisor. So, 3n divided by 3, we can cancel 3 over 3, or 3 divided by 3 is 1. So, matitira na lang 1n. So, we can write it n here. 75 divided by 3, that is equal to 25. So, the answer is 25 newspapers yung nabenta ni Roy. So, that's how we answer using cross products. We can also use the next strategy. Okay? We can use express ratio and higher term or lower term. Paano naman ito? So, kanina, ang nabuo nating ratio, proportion ay 3 to 5 as 15 to n. So, ang gagawin lang natin dito, tingnan natin yung ratio ng una, 3 to 5. Then, think of a number na kapag minultiply natin sa 3, ang sagot ay 15. So, ang term na pwede nating i-multiply sa 3 ay 5. Bano? Wala nang ibang number. Kasi 3 times 5 is equal to 15. So, i-multiply din natin yung second term sa 5. So, 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So, therefore, n is equal to 25. So, that's how we solve the given problem or direct proportion using the ratio or the higher term or lower term ratio. Then, the next strategy, we can use the colon form. So, given na ito, di ba? So, Lino to Roy as Lino to Roy. First term, second term. Sa second ratio ay first term, second term. So, Lino at first, meron siyang 3 to 5 as 15 to n. So, we can multiply the extremes, partner, the first number, and then the last term, 3 times n. Then, the means, or in the middle number, 5 times 15. So, parang colon for, ay parang fraction form din dito, children. So, 3 times n equals 5 times 15. So, 3n is equal to 5 times 15, 75. Then, divide both equation by 3. So we can cancel 3 kasi 3 divided by 3 is 1. So matitira na lang ay n. 75 divided by 3 is 25. So same answer lang din. So n ay 25. So si Roy dito ay 25 newspapers. Okay, newspapers. Okay, so alam nyo na kung paano mag-set up ng ratio according to direct proportion. And then meron tayong tatlong strategy para pwede ninyong isolve yung problem that involves direct proportion. So let's have this another example. A car travels 120 kilometers in 3 hours. How many kilometers will it cover for 5 hours? As you can see at first, 120 kilometers. So we are comparing here kilometers to hours. So we can write or set up the proportion. This can be easily identified that this problem is a direct proportion kasi yung hours tumaas ng 5 to 5. So kilometers, to set up kilometers to hours as kilometers to hours using fraction form. Okay, so let's name kilometers at first, 120. Then 120 in 3 hours. Then how many kilometers? So, kilometers yung hahanapan natin ng sagot at 5 hours yung kanyang sa ilalim. So we can do the cross method or cross product. 120 times 5 equals 3 times n. We can multiply both or divide na natin siya. Pwede diretso, divide by 3 yung both equation. So we can divide 3 divided by 3. Ang matitira na lang ay si n. 120 times 5 is equal to 600 and divided by 3. 600 divided by 3, so bring down n equals 200. So therefore, 200 kilometers will it cover for 5 hours. Okay, so we can use also it in column form. Kilometers to hours as kilometers to hours. Then 120 to 3 hours as n to 5 hours. Kasi yung kilometers yung hahanapan natin. Then we can multiply the extremes, then the means. So parang nasa column form din siya. Fraction form. So 120 times 5 is equal to 600 as 3 times n is equal to 3n. Then divide both equation by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is to 1. So we can cancel 3. Matitira na lang ay si n is equal to 600 divided by 3 is equal to 200. So n is equal to 200. So kung gagamitin din naman natin ito children ng higher term, we can do it this way. 120 as to 3 is equal to n as to 5. Okay. So hindi tayo makakapag-isip ng 3, multiply natin sa number na 3, 5 ang magiging sagot. So we can do it in a higher term. So ang gawin natin, we can multiply it by 5, both by 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. 120 times 5 is equal to 600. Then express them into lowest term by getting yung ginamit natin dito na 3. So 600 divided by 3, then 15 divided by 3 equals 200 over 5. So ang n niya ay 200 din. So the same din. So any way or strategy pwede ninyong gamitin kung saan mas madali para sa inyo. Okay, pwede kayong kumuha ng papel at ballpen at sabayan ako sa pagsagot nito. So let's do it together. So this example is the ratio of duck eggs to chicken eggs is in an egg store is 2 to 7. If there are 32 duck eggs in the store, how many chicken eggs are there? So let's analyze the given problem. What are the quantities that we are going to compare here? So we are comparing duck eggs to chicken eggs. So to set up the proportion, duck eggs to chicken eggs as duck eggs to chicken eggs. So ganun mag-set up. Okay, so we can use the fractional form dito. So how many ducks egg at first? What is the ratio? 2 to 7 as, then 32 to n. Okay? Or we can write the column form 2 to 7 as 32 to n. Okay, let's solve this one using the cross product. So multiply the extremes and then multiply the means. So 2 times n equals 7 times 32. 2 times n is equal to 2n equals 7 times 32 is 224. Then, divide both equation by partner ni n. Sino? Si 2. Okay. So, we can cancel 2. Matitira na lang ay si n. 224 divided by 2 is equal to 112. So, therefore, si n is equal to 112. Using the cross product strategy. Ito naman, column form. So, gawin natin, multiply the extremes, then multiply the means. So, 2 times n is equal to 7 times 32. So, parang fraction form din ang pattern. So, 2 times n is equal to 2n, 7 times 32 is equal to 224. Then, divide both equation by 2. So, cancel 2, matitira ay si n. 224 divided by 2 is 112. So, same lang din ang sagot. Tama? So, si n dito ay 112. So, we can use also the strategy na yung higher term. So yung proportion natin ay 27 as 32 over n. Okay? So, ngayon, think of a number that when we multiply to 2, ang sagot ay 32. So, ang i-multiply natin ay 16. So 2 times 16 is equal to 32. Same with the second quantity which is 7, i-multiply din natin siya sa 16. Ang magiging sagot niya ay 112. So n is equal to 112. So any strategy na pwede ninyong gamitin. Ang mahalaga dito, children, ay you know how to set up the proportion in a direct proportion. So, sa direct proportion, tatandaan kung ano yung first quantity mo sa unang ratio at second quantity mo sa unang ratio, dapat ganun din sa pangalawang ratio. Okay? So, kung mapapansin ninyo dito, pag tumaas yung isa, mangyayari sa second quantity, tataas din. So, that is an example of a direct proportion. So, punta naman tayo dito sa inverse proportion or indirect proportion. Ano nga ba ang inverse or indirect proportion? We can say that an inverse proportion is a change in one produces a change in the other in an opposite direction. So, word na opposite. That is an increase in one quantity produces decrease in the other quantity. Or a decrease in one quantity produces an increase in the other quantity. In short, kapag ang unang term ay mataas, ang mangyayari sa second term niya ay bababa. So, opposite. Pansin nyo? First term, increase. Second term, decrease. First term, decrease. Second term, increase. So, that is an inverse or indirect proportion. So, for you to more understand what is inverse proportion, let's consider this example. If 4 farmers can plow a 3-hectare land in 6 days, how long will 8 farmers do it? Again, if 4 farmers can plow a 3-hectare land in 6 days, how long will 8 farmers to do it? Let's analyze first the given problem. As you can observe, the number of farmers is inversely proportional to the days taken to do the plowing. So, kapag sinulat natin siya sa ganitong proportion, 4 farmers to 6 days and 8 farmers to n days. Okay, first, solution is let n be the days required by 8 farmers to plow the 3-hectare land. To solve, we can use using indirect or inverse proportion setup. Paano ba i-set up ang inverse or indirect proportion setup? At first, all we have to do is to pair the same quantity or term. So, pwedeng farmers to days. So, kunin muna natin 4 farmers to 8 farmers. So, eto 4 farmers. Kinuha natin from left to right. 4 farmers to 8 farmers. So, papunta tayo doon. Dito naman sa days, unahin natin ito. 8 days and to 6 days. Ibig sabihin, papunta tayo sa kaliwa. Okay. So, this time, we can do the cross multiple or cross product. Okay. So, 4 okay? So, dito pwede natin din siyang isulat sa column form. Farmers to farmers as days to days. So, sa indirect proportion, pag set up, pagsasamahin natin yung same term. So, dito farmers to farmers, days to days. Pag sulat naman yan, kunain mo yung si 4, unahin mo si 4 farmers, then 8 farmers. Okay. First term, sa second unang ratio. Okay? Sa days naman, ang uunahin mo ay yung second term, then second term din ng unang ratio. Okay. So, to do the cross multiple or cross product, all we have to do is to multiply. Para i-solve na ito, multiply the extremes and multiply the means. So, 4 times 6 is equal to 8 times n. So, 4 times 6 is equal to 24 as 8n. Then, divide both equation. So, ganun ang susundin natin, cross product. By, sino partner ni n? 8. So, we'll be dividing both by 8. So, 8 divided by 8 is 1. So, we can cancel it. Then, bring down n. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So, therefore, meron tayo ditong 3 days. Sagot. So, using naman dito sa column form, multiply din ninyo yung extremes. Then, multiply nyo din yung means. So, dito, 4 times 6 is equal to 8 times n. Kung mapapansin nyo yung solution, almost the same lang, di ba? So, 4 times 6 is 24 as 8n. Then, divide both equation by 8. So, cancel. 8 divided by 8 is equal to 1. Matitira na lang ay si n. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So, therefore, ang n dito ay 3 days. Okay. So, that's how we set up indirect proportion or inverse proportion. Tansinin nyo kung paano ko sinet up ha. Using the indirect or inverse proportion setup. Okay. So, this time, punta tayo dito sa second strategy na pwede niyong gamitin. Okay, using direct proportion setup. Okay, so 4 farmers as to 6 days. 4 farmers to 6 days as 8 farmers to n days. So this time, ang ginamit natin pag setup ng proportion ay direct. First term, second term. Kung ano yung first term, yun din ang second term. Ay, kung ano yung first term sa first ratio, yun din ang first term sa second ratio. Then kung ano yung second term, yun din ang second term sa second ratio. Pero dito, ang gagawin natin, hindi agad tayo mag-cross multiply. Ang gagawin natin, kukopyahin muna natin yung numbers na nasa baba since gumamit tayo ng fraction form. So, kopyahin natin si 6 days and n days. So, ang gagawin natin, reverse natin siya or pagpapalitin natin. Si 8 days, dadalhin natin si 8 farmers, dadalhin natin dito. Then si 4 farmers, ilalagay natin dito. Okay. So, si 8 farmers, mapupunta dito. Then si 4 farmers, mapupunta sa kabila. Okay. Bago tayo mag-cross multiply. So, yan. Pwede na tayo diyang mag-cross multiply. Okay. So, 8 times n. Magiging sagot ay 8n as 6 times 4 is equal to 24. So, 8n is equal to 24. Then divide uli natin both equation by 8. So cancel 8, n ang matitira. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. So ganun din ang sagot, di ba? Pero ang ginamit natin dito, direct proportion. Or pwede nyong i-set up sa column form 4 farmers to 6 days as 8 farmers to n days. Pero hindi agad tayo multiply ng extremes at means. Ang gagawin natin nga, pagpapalitin natin. Si 8, ipapalit natin sa position ni 4. Then 8 to 6 as, then si 4 pupunta dun sa position ni 8, 4 to n. Bago tayo mag-multiply ng extremes and means. So 8 times n as 6 times 4. So 8 times n as 6 times 4. So 8n is equal to 6 times 4 is 24. Then divide both equation by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. So cancel 8. And matitira, 24 divided by 8 is 3. So that's how we used o answer indirect proportion yung problem, pero ang setup natin ay direct proportion. Sinet up muna natin siya ng direct proportion, pero ang susunod, hindi agad tayo magko-cross multiply. Ang ginawa natin, pinagpalit natin yung first term ng bawat ratio. So that's how we solve indirect or inverse proportion using direct proportion setup. Okay, let's try this one. Let's do it together. 12 painters can paint a building in 10 days. How many painters are needed to paint it in 6 days? So from 12 painters, bumaba siya ng from 10 days, yung 12 painters, 10 days na gagawin. Ngayon, kung 6 na araw lang gagawin yon, ilang painters ang kailangan? Okay, let's solve this one. We can use the direct proportion setup. So 12 we can also see here that the number of days is inversely proportional to the number of painters who can paint the building. So gamit tayo dito ng direct proportion setup kahit ang problem ay indirect. So 12 painters to 10 days and painters to 6 days. So 12 painters to 10 days as n painters to 6 days. So ano yung unang step? Ang gagawin, susulat muna yung number or term na nasa ilalim, 10 days. So pagpapalitin na ngayon, susunod pagpapalitin niya na sa n painters, ipapalit natin sa position ni 12. So mapupunta dito sa n painters at si 12 painters mapupunta sa dating position ni n painters. Okay, so this time saka tayo pwedeng mag-cross multiply. So n painters times 6 days. So mangyayari dyan, 6n as 10 times 12. So 6n, 10 times 12 is 120. Then divide both equation by 6 kung sinong partner ni n. So cancel 6, matitira ay si n. Then 120 divided by 6 is 20. So therefore, ang kailangan natin dito na painters ay 20 ang n. Okay? So ganyan ang pag-setup. Pwede rin sa proportion. Kung sa indirect naman, ang gagawin naman natin sa indirect, painters to painters, diba? So painters to painters. Ito ginamit ko dito indirect proportion setup as days to days. Ngayon, una, painters 12 as second, n yung nawawala. Okay, so papunta ako dito, inuna ko mula sa kaliwa papuntang kanan. Painters yung painters. So dito, sa days, simula ka mula sa kaliwa, kanan papuntang kaliwa. So 6 days as 10 days. Okay, so then we can do now the extreme and means multiplication. Multiply the extremes, then multiply the means. So 12 times 10 is 12 times 10 as n times 6. So, n6, 12 times 10 is 120. Then divide both equation by 6. So, cancel 6. Matitira na lang ay si n. 120 divided by 6 is 20. So, same lang ang sagot nila. So, ang sagot dyan ay 20 painters ang kailangan para matapos yung pagpipaint. So, as you can see, here, from 12 painters to 10 days, dahil bumaba yung araw ng pagtatrabaho, 6 days na lang, ilan ang kailangan? So, ibig sabihin, kung 6 days, dapat kailangan mo ng mas maraming magpipaint. So, kaya siya naging 20. So, that's how we solve inverse or indirect proportion. We can use the inverse or indirect proportion setup or the direct proportion setup. Susundan nyo lang yung proseso. Okay, so let's go on the other topic. So we have here partitive proportion. In partitive proportion, a whole is divided into parts that are proportional to the given ratio, or it is used to divide a number into parts proportional to the given ratio. So isang buo, hahati-hatiin mo according sa ratio or partition. So for you to understand more, let's have this example. The ratio of math books to science books in a class is 8 to 5. How many math books and science books if there are 247 books in all? So we cannot easily identify kasi not proportionally sila related, di ba? Kasi 8 to 5. Hahanapin natin ngayon ilang math books at ilang science books meron kung merong 247 na books in all. So we will be comparing math books to science books. So if we will be adding the number of math books to science books, so math books plus science book is equal to 247 books. So the ratio of math books to science books based from the given is 8 to 5 is equal to 247. So we can write then, to find the number of books and then the number of science books, we can write 8n plus 5n equals 247. Then after that, we will be adding 8n plus 5n, that is 13n, equals 247. Then, we will be dividing both equation by the number na partner ni n. Anong number yon? 13. So, divide both equation by 13. So, 13n divided by 13, we can cancel 13 divided by 13 kasi ang sagot ay 1. So, ang matitira na lang ay si n equals. Then, divide 247 by 13. The quotient will be 19. Then, let's substitute n. Dito sa 8n, so substitute na natin si n. So, si 8n times, ilan yung value ng n? 19. So, 8 times 19 equals 152. Then, 5 times value ng n dito is 19 equals 95. Therefore, yung math books is equal to 152 and then yung science book is 95. Okay, the answer will be 152 math books and 95 science books. So this is an example of a partitive proportion. According to the partition, yung buo o in all na books 247, hinati natin sa ratio na 8 to 5. Okay, so let's have this another example. Jander, Carlo, and Kevin are good friends. They sold pots in the ratio of 2 to 3 to 4. Together, they sold 225 pots. How many pots did each of them sell? So this time, the partitions or the ratio are 2 to 3 to 4. Wherein, parts of Jander to Carlo to Kevin. Okay. So the ratio is 2 to 3 to 4. is equal to 225 pots. So we can write 2n plus 3n plus 4n is equal to 225. Then add 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 4 is 9. 9n is equal to 225. Then divide both equation by partner ni n, which is 9. Okay? So 9 divided by 9 is 1, so bring down 1. 225 divided by 9, so 225 divided by 9. 22 divided by 9, we can get groups of 2. 2 times 9 is equal to 18. Then may tirang 22 minus 18 is 4. Bring down 5. 45 divided by 9 is 5. 5 times 9 is 45. Then 45 minus 45 is 0. So si n is equal to 25. The question is, how many pots did each of them sell? So we can substitute si gender ay 2. So we can substitute n. So dito, 2 times what is the value of n is 25. So 2 times 25 is 50. So 50 pots for gender. Then next, 3n, substitute n by 25. So 3 times 25, that is 75 pots for Carlo. Then, yung kay Kevin naman ay 4. Substitute n. Ang value ng n ay 25. That is 100 pots for Kevin. Okay? So, as you can see, yung pots na each of them sell is 50 pots for gender, 75 pots for Carlo, and 100 pots for Kevin. If we will add those number of pots that each of them get, ang makukuha nating total ay 225 pots din. So, ibig sabihin, nangangahulugan na yung n na nakuha natin ay tama. So, that's how we solve and then put up or set up ratio in a partitive proportion. Okay, let's have this another example. The ratio of chocolate donuts to vanilla donuts is 5 to 2. If there are 14 donuts in all, how many vanilla donuts are there? Okay, so we are comparing here chocolate donuts to vanilla donuts. And ang total nila ay 14 donuts. Okay, ratio ng chocolate ay 5 to 2 equals 4. Then we can write let n, yung hahanapin natin yung chocolate, plus 2n equals 14. So 5n plus 2n is equal to 7n is equal to 14. Then divide again both equation by 7. Kung sino yung partner ni n. So 7 divided by 7 is 1, so we can cancel 7, matitira ay si n. Okay? Equals 14 divided by 7 is 2. So substitute na natin. Si chocolate ay 5. So since ang hinahanap naman dito ay vanilla donuts, pwede ka nang pumunta sa vanilla. So 2n ang hinahanap natin. So substitute natin si si n. So 2, ang value ng n ay 2. So therefore, 4 ang vanilla. Okay, to check this one, pwede natin kunin si 5. N, ang value ng n ay 2. 10 chocolates. Okay, this time, kapag pinag-add natin siya, 14 donuts, which is same doon. So that's how we solve a partitive proportion. So the answer here is 4 vanilla donuts. Okay. So that's how we solve partitive proportion. So hope you learned something from my discussion. So to sum it up, let's generalize all the discussions that we have. So we have three types of proportion, namely direct proportion, inverse or indirect proportion, and partitive proportion. When we say direct proportion, a change in one variable produces a change on the other in the same direction. Ibig sabihin, an increase or decrease in one quantity producing the same rate of increase or decrease in the other quantity. We can solve direct proportion through cross-product strategy or expressing ratio in higher term or lower term and then column form. In inverse proportion or indirect proportion, a change in one produces a change in the other in an opposite direction or kabaliktaran. That means that an increase in one quantity produces decrease in the other quantity or vice versa. Kapag tumaas yung isa, ang mangyayari, bababa yung isa. So, baliktad yung inverse proportion. We can solve problems that involve indirect proportion using the indirect proportion setup or using the direct proportion setup. But you have to follow the rules. In partitive proportion, a whole is divided into parts that are proportional to the given ratio, or it is used to divide a number into parts that are proportional to the given ratio. So, hope you learned something from my discussion, and then for more videos, you can visit my YouTube channel account, Teacher Ricky B. You may hit the subscribe and then the notification bell para updated kayo doon sa mga video na ipopost ko. So, once again, thank you for listening and hope you learned something from my discussion. Goodbye and stay safe.